Hi folks, this is Lou Pulsfer to talk about a topic that's close to most people's hearts, saving money at conventions and conferences. And of course this is one of those different strokes for different folks things. Some people seem to think money is no object, whether it's because they have a lot of money or not. Some people have their company pay for a conference or possibly a convention. I attend these things as a business expense, and I know how expensive they are because I have to track it all. For others, saving money is really important. Can you justify spending that money on playing games? On playing games when you've gone somewhere else? I mean, you can play games at home. At least many people can. Some people don't have game groups or opponents. Some people are just naturally frugal. I have a friend who's a guru in networking and so on, and he makes way into six figures, but he's naturally frugal, and so he likes to save money at conventions. So let's talk about saving money. There are a number of convention expenses, which I list here, and then I'll talk about each one separately. And the first one, the most obvious one, is travel. And this depends on how near the convention is. If you're going to a convention that's 50 miles away, you'll probably drive to it every day and then drive home. If it's 500 miles away, then you've got a different situation. Then you've got to decide whether to drive or fly. Driving is more flexible, it's usually cheaper and more reliable in many ways, and you end up having a car available at the site. Some people fly and then rent a car. Some people who drive rent a car and drive the car to the convention and back. If you rent a car by the week with unlimited mileage, it's not terrifically expensive. Of course, if you're going to go 1,000 miles or more, flying is just about required. But less than that, and you may have a choice. Well, some people like to drive, some people don't like to drive. It's up to you. The next greatest expense, or sometimes the greatest expense, is accommodation. Convention hotels, a hotel where the convention is actually going on, are often very expensive, but they have obvious advantages. You can walk downstairs to the convention hall or whatever. The least expensive thing to do is to pool with 3 other people in one room and then just pay a quarter. I'm usually on my own, so I stay in a hotel some distance out from the con hotel. This could be 5 to 10 miles in a big city. It could be a mile in a small place like Lancaster, Pennsylvania. But the hotel will be half the price of the convention hotel. But if you're staying at a hotel nearby, then you've got to drive and then park every day. At Gen Con, that can be fairly expensive. I park in a relatively cheap parking deck, and I'm talking $5 to $10, and then I hoof it a half a mile or a mile to the convention center. But the hotel, as a result, is 1/3 the cost of the convention hotel. Less than 1/3 the cost. Of course, parking in a formal garage is not practical if you're a night owl because they lock up around 11. Food can be expensive, but usually there are relatively inexpensive food options at a convention, and there are lots of restaurants nearby in most cases. If you're staying in a hotel, you can take along cheap food options. For example, my friend taught me this. Instant oatmeal. Most hotel rooms now have a coffee maker to heat water. And even if you don't have that, you can use hot tap water and eat instant oatmeal for breakfast. You can bring bread and jam or peanut butter and have sandwiches. And of course, if you have a fridge in a room, there's a lot more you can do. Then you can take what I call iron rations, packets of crackers, energy bars, health food bars, and the ultimate iron ration, which is Pop-Tarts. They don't take up much space, they are fairly filling, and there are lots of different flavors. No, you won't put them in a toaster, but then I never did with Pop-Tarts. Then we have the convention or conference entry fees. Now, entry fees for video conferences are usually quite high. I only go to the East Coast Game Conference when I'm a speaker in order to save the very large entry fee and time, and that's a relatively inexpensive conference. The Game Developers Conference in California is appallingly expensive from my point of view. Fees for game conventions tend to be smaller, under $100, and for some this lets you play in all the events, like at PressCon and WBC. Then we have fees for individual events. At conventions like Gen Con and Origins, each game event has a fee attached. These are often small, $2 to $4, but it can add up. And at any convention there can be a special event such as the live dungeons things that cost quite a bit more. I already talked a bit about parking. If you're at a convention hotel, you might escape parking fees unless the hotel has parking fees, which can happen in a downtown hotel in a large city. In a small place like Lancaster, Pennsylvania or Charlottesville, Virginia, the parking is free at the convention hotel, even if you're not staying there. In Indianapolis or Columbus, it's $5 to $20 a day. And finally, we have what can be a very great expense for some people and very little for others: personal purchases. It's not easy to go to a game convention and not buy anything. Now, conferences don't usually have as much stuff for sale, but conventions do. You can spend hundreds on games and unrelated doodads like swords. One year I bought a wooden pirate sword. Other melee weapons, I bought a pair of Sai for $25 one year at Gen Con. Steampunk hats and other apparel, haven't done that yet. Books, other than game books. Jewelry, ornaments, sculptures, and so forth. Well, it's your money. You have to decide what you can afford. Cons are fun, but don't spend your money unnecessarily.